Good afternoon, everyone. I want to welcome you today. My name is Paula Hyman. I'm filling in for Victoria Beal from the Ohio LTAP Center. And I want to welcome you to the Subcontract Payment Reporting on ODOT Let Construction Projects webinar. Just a couple of housekeeping items I would like to cover with you before we get started here. If you have questions throughout this presentation, I'm going to ask that you please type them into the questions box. So you'll locate that. The presenters are going to address your questions periodically throughout the presentation. So if everyone could please locate the questions pod, go ahead and just type a quick hello, a hi, just to familiarize yourself with where it is, how it works. And then also today, I have today's presentation is available in the handout section. That's an available download for PDF. If for some reason you are unable to download the handout, just put your email into that questions box and I will send it out to you via email. Now, whatever you type in there is just going to come to me, so don't worry about putting anything in there. All right, I want to thank you in advance for your participation today. And with that, we're going to launch two quick poll questions just to see who we have on the line here. To be able to vote, if you were previously full screen, just hit the escape button and then it will allow you to vote on the page here. Wait, will you send me the PDF version? I guess the one that is in the handout section is the actual PowerPoint and not the PDF document.
Yes, you want it after the presentation?
Yes, and actually I'll just do it in the background. I'll see if I can just save it as PDF in the background for you to get it out to those who need it. Thank you for letting me know that. All right, so we have about 89% voted here, and I'm going to go ahead and close the poll and share. So for the poll results, we have 43% are prime, 45% are subs, 10% ODOT, and 3% other. Oh, and thank you, Ms. Miller, for telling me. So we have some who kind of fit both roles, but we did put it as one option only. Thank you for that. And we have one more question today. Go ahead and launch that now. Have you used CRL in the past? Okay, we're at about 85%. We'll go ahead and close it. So 24% says yes, a lot, 58% yes, a little, and 18% no, not at all. Thank you for your participation. I'm going to go ahead and pass things off to Ed Waite. Are you ready?
I am ready.
All right, thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Civil Rights and Labor Subcontractor Payment Reporting webinar. My name is Adwait Supniker, business analyst. We also have David Walker, the accountability manager, joining us. We are both from the Office of Business and Economic Opportunity here at ODOT. Okay, so we'll get started here with our agenda. First, we'll go through the introduction and purpose. Then we'll discuss what Ashgate Project Civil Rights and Labor, prompt payment, payment requirements, and FHWA 1273. And then we'll have entering payments in CRL, followed by a demonstration. We also have reports available for us that we'll be discussing, payment affidavits, and then we have contact information and follow it up with questions and follow-up. So let's get started here with the introduction and purpose. The purpose of this webinar is to inform prime contractors and subcontractors on ODOT-led construction projects on how to record payments in CRL for the purpose of being in compliance with contractual requirements and FHWA regulations. In notice to industry was sent out on December 12th, 2019. The notice included the prime contractors working on contracts that include Proposal Note 31 shall become compliant by entering and signing all previously made subcontractor payments for open projects by February 1st, 2020, and by continuing to enter and sign subcontractor payments as they are made. The previous notice to industry was on prompt payment notifications was sent on January 9th, 2016, and then June 29th of 2017. Another notice to industry was sent in June of 2020, and that was for reporting funds withheld from subcontractor payments. And so effective immediately in CRL, the system includes a functionality for prime contractors, the payers, to report the amounts withheld from subcontractor or the payees for retainage or any other reason. The retainage information must be reported per Proposal Note 31. So let's go ahead and talk about Ashgate Project Civil Rights and Labor. So Ashgate Project is a web-based enterprise system for managing the construction contract life cycle. It's designed by transportation professionals for transportation professionals. It's a web-based software with external access. So you, the prime contractors and subcontractors, will have access to Ashgate Project. It has mobile app capability and is cloud hosted and is 30 years in production. It's an overview of Ashgate Project. On the technical side, it's a data that's stored in a single location, has single standard security model, captures all the information at the source, and has reporting capability. So the module that we'll be discussing in this webinar is the one that's to the lower left here, and it's the Ashgate Project Civil Rights and Labor. So Ashgate Project is also used by 50 agencies, including Washington, D.C., and 2 Canadian provinces. So CRL, Civil Rights and Labor, is a module within Ashgate Project that allows for the effective administration of an agency's external civil rights and labor compliance activities. So contractors and subcontractors use CRL to submit electronic payment information. And this will hasten the decommissioning of the paper-based payment affidavit process. So prompt payment. So after ODOT makes a payment to the prime contractor for work on a contract, the prime contractor is in turn responsible for paying its subcontractors. So when the prime has paid the subcontractors are also responsible for paying their own subcontractors or tiered subcontractors. And we're going to be showing this process in the demonstration part of this webinar. So the requirement comes from Proposal Note 31, the Code and Federal Regulations, CFR 492629, requires that ODOT establish a mechanism to monitor prompt payment requirements to all subcontractors. Additionally, Ohio Revised Code 4113.61, the timeline limitation on payments to subcontractors and material men, establishes payments must be made within 10 calendar days after receipt of payment from the owner. So the department requires prime contractors to report their payments to subcontractors, and the subcontractors report their payments to their subcontractors. So all reporting must take place within ASHTOR Civil Rights and Labor, and the payer must enter and sign payments within 7 calendar days of making the payment. So the prime contractors and subcontractors must report payments to subcontractors, DBE and non-DBE, subcontractors, DBE and non-DBE, and suppliers only, suppliers which are DBE only, and trucking firms which are DBE only. The subcontractor payment workflow, the prime will go ahead and enter the subcontractor payment records for the work the subcontractors have performed for each estimate payment, and then sign the payment record. And then the payee will go ahead and verify the receipt of that subcontractor payment. And then the agency can review the transactions. The subcontractor payments after they've been reviewed, this completes the process. So again, in the demonstration part of this webinar, we'll be going through this process of entering the payment and then reviewing the payment as well. Okay. If a payer needs to make a correction to a signed payment, or a payee needs to make a correction to a verified payment, the CRO user will need to submit a correction request, because once the payment is signed, it cannot be deleted. So ODOT will review the request and submit to ODOT IT for a correction. The CRO user will be notified of the correction or disapproval. And we'll be also demonstrating this process as well. So the payment correction request form is available on the CRO resource site. Please note the URL. And if you navigate down to the additional resources on the website, you'll see 2 links there. One for subcontractor payment reporting for the payer correction request, and one for subcontractor payment reporting payee correction requests. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started with the demonstration part of the webinar. We'll be logging in as a prime contractor, and we'll go ahead and record our payment to our subcontractor, and then we'll log in as our subcontractor and verify that payment. Additionally, we'll also be recording a payment from our subcontractor to our tiered subcontractor. So I'm going to go ahead and log in to the actual site. Open up my browser here. Now, when you first log in to the production site, it will look very similar to what you see here. You have 2 options here, either ODOT personnel and ODOT partners. So for external users, prime contractors and subcontractors, you want to go ahead and click ODOT partners. So once you click on ODOT partners, you'll be navigated to the login page. Now, since this is the actual production environment, I'm going to actually navigate to our test environment, which is our sandbox, because that's where we want to do our demonstration. Okay, so this is our test environment, and we can go ahead and log in. When you log in, you want to go ahead and prefix your username with the ODOT online. So you want to type in ODOT, ONLINE, and then you want to hit a backslash, and then your username. So I'm going to go ahead and enter my Prime username, and then go ahead and enter your password. And then you can press enter or press the sign in button. Now, as it's logging in here, I'm logging in as the Prime contractor. And it just takes a minute here because it's the test environment. Okay. Get into our loading screen. Okay, so we're at the home page. Now, in order to conduct subcontractor payment reporting, you need to make sure that you're using the role ODOT Contractor Subpayment. So whether you're the prime or the subcontractor, please make sure that you open up the drop-down next to the home button and check ODOT Contractor Subpayment if it is not already checked. Okay, and your home screen should look very similar to this. So we're logged in as our prime contractor, which is Kokosin Construction Company, and we want to go ahead and enter in our contract ID. So for the purpose of this demonstration, the contract ID I'm going to use is CUI 96833, and then I'll go ahead and press enter key. And then you can see our contract is displayed here, and the prime contractor name is displayed as well. So if we click on the contract ID, it will launch here with the list of estimates. So we want to go ahead and use estimate 2 for our demonstration. I clicked on estimate 2. And once it's done loading, you'll see our general tab here that indicates that it's estimate 2. And then in order to actually record the payment, we want to go ahead and click on the subcontractor payments tab. And then you'll see a link here for add subcontractor payment from Prime. So I'll go ahead and click that link. And this is where we want to go ahead and start our process of entering our data to our payee. So we've made a payment to our subcontractor. Now we want to record that payment. So for the purpose of this demonstration, the payee I'm going to use is Independence Excavating. So I'll type in the name, INDEPENCEEXC, and you can see that it's comes up in the search here. And so I'll go ahead and click on Independence Excavating Incorporated. So the payee payment number, usually I like to use the date. So if you want to enter in 072220, you can do that as the payee payment number. It just has to be a unique number for each estimate that you're using. Okay, and then the date paid, I'll just go ahead and leave it as today's date as the default. And then you want to indicate whether it's the final payment or whether it's a progress payment. So we'll go ahead and select progress here. And then we're going to enter an amount here. So we'll enter an amount of $5,000 here. Okay. And then if the payee is completed its work, you want to go ahead and check this checkbox. So we'll leave it unchecked here since it's a progress payment. And then we'll go ahead and save the payment record. So you can see here our payment record is saved. And now we also want to indicate, well, there was some withholding on this payment. So if we click on the withholding tab over here to the left, we're navigated to the actual withholding tab here. And then we have several options here. The first checkbox here at the top, you're indicating that if you check this checkbox, the payer is reporting that the entire payment amount on the general tab is a release to the payee of a previously withheld funds. So if you had previously withheld funds and you're releasing that, you want to go ahead and check that checkbox. So we'll go ahead and leave it unchecked right now. And then we want to enter a withholding amount. So if we want to enter in, let's say we're withholding $10,000. Excuse me, $1,000, not 10,000. Okay. So, and then you also want to check this checkbox here. The withholding from this payment is from a purpose other than retainage. Then you want to check that checkbox. And then if it is for purpose other than retainage, you want to also enter in comments. So you want to say payment withheld here. Okay. And then payment comments here at the lower bottom here is optional if you want to enter any comments. So we want to go ahead and save.
I mean, that's just an example of a comment. There would have to be something a little bit more specific, actually, but right.
Yeah, you can enter exactly why you're entering, withholding those payments. So yeah, it's a good point.
But if it's just for retainage, then there's no comment needed. It's assumed that that's for.
David, there's also a question that came in.
Oh, yes. So the question was, will for on the previous screen when the payment was being entered, will the payee only appear in the search results if there is a C92 approved C92 for them? And the answer is, unfortunately, no. It will bring up all payees, all potential vendors that are in the system. So you do have to be careful. Like you could see that for Independence Excavating, they appeared twice, and it was pretty obvious that the first one was like a joint venture, and you wouldn't use that, but unless that's the correct payee. But sometimes there are slight variations of firm names. And if you're not sure which one to use, let us know.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So continuing on with the demo, we're ready to go ahead and save the payment record with our withholding data entered. And so we've recorded this payment and we've entered a withholding amount. And so we're ready to sign our payment record. So if you go ahead and click on the link for contract payment, the top.
Well, and just one more point, just to make it clear, if there's nothing that was withheld from the payment, you can just skip over that withholding tab completely.
Yes, that's right. It is optional. So if there's nothing withheld, yeah, you would not need to enter any data there. Okay, then we'll go ahead and click on our subcontractor payments link tab over here to the left. And you can see here our payment record here that was made out from our payer, Kokosin Construction Company, to our payee, Independence Excavating Incorporated, for $5,000. So we're ready to go ahead and sign this payment.
Oh, wait. Wait, a question came in. Was the payment 5,000 or 4,000?
It's 5,000, but then we withheld $1,000. So the total amount may have been 6,000, but we withheld 1,000. So what we paid to them was just 5,000. Okay. So if we open up the row actions menu here for this payment record, you can see here there's a delete option. So if you see anything that's incorrect, before you sign it, go ahead and select delete and then press the save button. So if you see like the payment amount should have been actually a different amount than 5,000, before you sign it, go ahead and delete that payment. Because once you sign the payment record, it cannot be deleted. And that's where you have to submit a request for correction. So we're ready to sign our payment record. So we'll go ahead and click the sign subcontractor payment. And once it's done loading here, we'll go ahead and continue the process. Okay, so during the review process, what gets displayed is the subcontractor payment report. And if you scroll down here in that subcontractor payment report, you'll see the actual contract information. And just below that, you'll see the subcontractor payment information. And you can see here the actual payer, which is Kokosin Construction, and the payee. And then the other information that we entered in, the payment date, the amount that was paid, and the withheld amount as well. So this is how you can verify your data. And then once you verified that, you want to go ahead and scroll to the bottom and click the right blue arrow. And then you'll get the verification text that you verifying that you are paying this subcontractor the payment and for the payment date as well. So the payment date of 7/22/2020. And then you want to scroll down to the bottom, and then we'll go ahead and click the right blue arrow again. And then this is where you want to actually sign your payment. If you want to enter any comments, you may do so. It's optional and not required. But then once you're ready, you can go ahead and click the sign payment button. And so I'll go ahead and do that. So as I mentioned, once I've signed that payment, it cannot be corrected. So that's why it's always good to note that delete option is available before you sign. Okay, so I went ahead and signed this payment. And then if I go over here and navigate to the actual endorsements tab, you'll go ahead and see that once it's done loading here, that who is assigned by. You'll get your username here and the actual sign date here. Okay, so the prime part is complete at this time. They have entered in the payment with withholding information, and then they've signed that payment. Now the subcontractor will be responsible for actually verifying that payment. So we'll go ahead and log off here.
Well, wait. Could you demonstrate how to delete a payment that was entered erroneously before being signed?
Yes, I'll have to enter a new payment record in there.
Okay, while you're getting set up for that, there was a question. Contractor got paid for a subcontractor item from ODOT, and the subcontractor has not submitted an invoice to the contractor. Does the contractor pay the sub without an invoice? I mean, that's something that should be handled. I mean, by the contractor's contract with the sub. I mean, there should be some language in there. The Ohio Revised Code talks about the subcontractor having to submit an invoice. You know, if the contractor still has to, the subcontractor still has to submit an invoice in order for that with the 10 days to be in play.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't believe that there's any requirement to pay a sub that you haven't received an invoice from that sub for the work.
Okay, so I've already entered in the payment record. So I'll go ahead and show the process of actually deleting the payment here. So if I go back and click on the contract payment link here, and then I'll click on the subcontractor payments tab. And you can see that the two records that were entered in here. The first one was the top one here was the one that was already signed. So since this second one here, the bottom one hasn't been signed, I can actually delete it. So if I open up the row actions menu here for that payment record, and I select delete, and then I go ahead and press the save button. And then you can see here, after it's done loading, that second record that I entered in, since I didn't sign it, I can now go ahead and delete it. So the only one that we have here is the first payment record. Okay. All right, I'll go ahead and.
Question that came in is, how would I print this if I wanted to?
You can print the subcontractor payment report. And if you open up the row actions menu, there is a report here for subcontractor payment. So once you click on that link, you can actually launch the report. And it generates it as a PDF, which you can then go ahead and save to your system, or you can go ahead and print. So if I go ahead and select generate as PDF, keep the custom layout source, and press execute. And then this generates the PDF here, very similar to what you saw when we went in and signed the actual payment. So again, you can save this to your system, or you can go ahead and print it out. Okay, we'll go ahead and close this tab. And there is a download option as well. So if you want to download the PDF and you click execute, you can see here it downloads it, and usually downloads it to your downloads folder. And then if you click show in folder, you'll get the option there to show all the files there. Okay, so you can download it, or you can generate the PDF, and then you can either save it or print it out. Okay. Should I go ahead and continue now with the subcontractor payment part, David?
Yeah, no other questions that I'm seeing, so go ahead.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and log off, and then we'll go ahead and click our URL here. So again, this is what you'll see after you navigate from the home page. You'll go ahead and click on ODOT Partners, and you'll get navigated to the login page. So go ahead and enter in the ODOT online, followed by / and then username, and then my subcontractor username is what I'm going to enter in here, and then enter in the password. And then now I'm logged in as the subcontractor. So the subcontractor we're using here is Independence Excavating Incorporated. So they will not see the payment now until after the prime has entered the payment and signed the payment. So since the prime has entered and signed the payment, Independence Excavating should be able to see that payment. So we'll go ahead and enter in the contract ID, same one that we used as the prime, CUI 96833. And then we'll click the contract ID here. And then if you scroll down, you'll see estimate 2. So we need to go ahead and verify the payment record on estimate 2. You click that link for estimate 2. You'll see here once it's done loading, the general tab, very similar to what the prime contractor saw. And then we'll go ahead and click on the subcontractor payments tab. And you'll see here the payment record that was made from Kokosin Construction Company to Independence Excavating Incorporated. So we're ready to verify our payment. We've received our payment, and now we're just ready to verify that payment that we've received in CRL. So we'll go ahead and open up the row actions menu. Now you may see the option here to delete, but the subcontractor cannot delete it because it's already been signed. So we want to go ahead and select verify payment. And now we're going to go ahead and go through our process of verifying the payment as a subcontractor. Very similar to what you saw as the prime contractor, you're going to be displayed the subcontractor payment report. Again, you'll get the contract information here, followed by the subcontractor payment information. So they can see here the prime contractor and the payee, the subcontractor, the payment date, the payment amount, and also here you'll notice that the withheld amount is displayed as well. So if you know that there's a withheld amount of $1,000, you should be able to see that in your subcontractor payment report. And then you want to go ahead and scroll down to the bottom and click the right blue arrow. And then this is where you'll verify the receipt of that payment. So I am the subcontractor, and I have my options of indicating the payment received as no, yes as expected, yes, but not as expected. So if I know that there was $1,000 withheld, so I know that's as expected. So I'll then go ahead and enter in my amount, $5,000, and the date that it was received. I'll put in today's date, just for our purposes of demonstration. And I know that the work is not complete, so I'm going to leave this checkbox unchecked here. And then payee comments are optional, so you can enter them if you want. So you can say payment received. And then you want to go ahead and click the right blue arrow. And then once you're ready, go ahead and click the submit verification button. Okay. Now, similar to what the prime contractor saw, you can also navigate over here to the endorsements, and you can actually see the actual signatures here. So here's the prime contractor signature and the date it was signed, and then the payee signature, who actually signed it, and then the amount received. So, and then they can indicate the payment received, and then is indicated as yes is received. Okay, so that's the subcontractor portion. We've gone ahead and verified our payment as a subcontractor.
Some questions.
Sure.
So, well, first one is, why would I verify receipt of 5,000 when I only received 4,000? But like as we said before, the possibly the sub's invoice was for 6,000. The payer reported that they're paying the sub 5,000 and withholding 1,000. And then as long as the sub is, understanding that withholding is for retainage, then 5,000 is what the sub is expecting. So then 5,000 would be what the sub gets paid, and it should be what the sub is expecting. Now, if this retainage was a surprise to the sub, I could see where the sub might say, no, I expected to receive 6,000. So they would say, yes, not as expected.
That's right. They would go ahead and select that option.
Okay. Question is another one. When I log in as a sub, all I see under the home button is contract payroll, but not payments.
Yes, so they would need to get the payment roll, so they can go ahead and contact CRL support. Towards the end of the presentation, we'll go ahead and provide contact information and who to contact if you need to get the payment roll, or if you don't have access to CRL, you can also contact CRL support. And we'll provide that information towards the end of the presentation today.
Okay. And then related to that is, if I operate as both a prime and sub, do I need separate logins?
No, you would not. You would be set up as a prime contractor based upon your contract. So for this particular contract, if I was the prime, I would be reporting my payments out as a prime contractor. If I was a contractor on a different contract, as a subcontractor, I would only be verifying payments on that second contract. But you would use the same username and password. And it's based upon the contract that you are either entering your payments on, or whether you're verifying your payments on, and whether you are a prime or subcontractor.
Now, the next one is, how often do I have to go on and look for payments from a prime? So I can answer this one. Well, we actually have a report that you're going to demonstrate or talk about a little bit later, so you won't have to go in and check every contract, every payment estimate to see if any payments have been put in by your prime. But the proposal note says, at least the proposal note that as of April 2020, it's been in the contracts that have been awarded since then, says that the subs have to go in and verify payments within 30 days of their being received. So this would basically be once a month. You'd have to go on and just verify all the payments received that month, whether received or not received. Anything that's been reported in the system is being paid to you as a sub. So just once a month. However, and this is a big however, if you are a sub that has subs, the 10 days to pay the sub applies to you as the payer of the sub. So you can't wait, you usually shouldn't wait the 30 days. You can still verify in 30 days, but you'll need to go in and report your payments prior to that to your sub. The vast majority of subs don't use subs, but for those that do, they're going to need to report those payments. And any payer has to report payments out to their payees within 7 days of actually making the payment. So basically, if you're a payer, whether at the prime level or at the sub level, you'll need to go in once a week, as long as you have payments to report. But if you're just a sub that receives payments and needs to verify them, you can go in once a month and do that. So the next question related to this one about how often subs need to go in and verify is, does the system generate an email to a sub when a prime has entered a payment? So it does not right now. That's something we're actually looking into, and it most likely won't actually come directly from CRL, but through our external report server. We're testing it out a little bit with the ability to send emails when something happens. The issue with this is that there are some subs that would be bombarded with emails because they do a lot of ODOT work for a lot of different primes. You may not want to get an email every time. And then other subs only have occasional ODOT projects and occasional ODOT work, so they would really value getting that email when it's time to go in and verify. So it would probably be something we would have a subscription to, where people that want to receive the emails can ask for them, and we can provide that. But we can't do it right now. But as I said, we have that report that runs. And then I also recently sent out emails to let people know about all their unverified payments. And so I plan on continuing to do that, which will be another reminder for people. So then there's a few more questions have come in. One is, what are the estimate numbers? So those are the estimate numbers are each time ODOT pays the prime, it's called an estimate. And it's because it's just it's not like necessarily for exact verified items of work that ODOT is paying for. But at the end, obviously ODOT just pays for the work that was completed, the final payment. So, but this way the primes get cash flow throughout the life of the project. But the estimate number, so the estimate dates are important, because that's where Ohio Revised Code comes in with when the prime receives that payment from the project owner, which is ODOT. That's when they have 10 days to pay the sub. So that's why all the payments that the primes report to the subs stem off from an individual estimate. Okay, the next question is, if the payment is received but not as expected from the sub, is the prime sent a notification? No, the prime is not notified. So, and this would be something that we would look at internally, and there wouldn't be any automatic kind of notification. There would be questions asked potentially, and then there would be just the appropriate follow-up done by ODOT staff. The question was, how many different logins for CRL does our company need? A different one for certified payroll payments, etc. Well, it's one login per person. It's not per role. So if a person does enter certified payroll and also enters payments or verifies payments, they would just use that one personal login that they have. And if there's another person that helps with just payments, then they would also have their login, and they would only have the ODOT contractor subpayment role. So it's minimum one per company, but it should be an individual. It's got to be an individual's name on the login, And so not just like, you really can't just do one for the whole company. I mean, it's not set up that way. They're set up to be specific to a person for accountability purposes. And that said, I mean, well, it's however many your company is comfortable having. If people want to have, I mean, I hear a lot where somebody has the prime responsibility for entering payments, but then they want to have a backup person that's also able to do it. And they might never really use it, but that's totally fine. You can have as many logins as you would like. Let us know.
Yeah, and I was just going to show here, David. As you can see in my login here, I've got both the ODOT contractor subpayment role and the ODOT non-agency private contractor payroll. So this is the bottom one is the role that I would use for payroll processing. And then the top one here, the ODOT contractor subpayment role, is the one I use for payment processing. So it may be organized in your firm where you have one person who's just doing payroll and another person who's just doing payments. And so they would just be granted the appropriate role based upon their responsibilities.
All right. Questions keep on coming here, which is good. I am trying to keep up. Let's see. Hang on one second. Apparently the slides say the amount paid should be the gross amount less the retainage held. So there might be maybe there's something that needs to be checked with those slides. I'll wait.
Okay, I'll take a look at the slides there. It's meant just more as an example, and then the actual presentation may not match exactly what's presented on the slides there. But I'll go ahead and take a look at this slide.
Yeah, we need to make sure that we're clear on this. But I think it makes sense to the way you displayed it, like when if the sub did want to, had submitted an invoice for 6,000, then the prime would report paying 5,000 and then report 1,000 being withheld if that's the case, which covers the entire 6,000. All right. Will there be an option for a no payment to subs for an estimate payment received? Right now, we don't have that option. We are looking into it. It's definitely something that would be good to be able to say, because yeah, and the report that we have online right now, and we're also working at looking at that, so that we would not show a missing payment if we don't see any work being performed by subs via the daily work reports. So we're looking to improve that report so it doesn't show as much red online, but we currently, we don't have the capability for somebody to go into CRL and say no payments need to be made on that estimate, but we're working on it for a future configuration change. And the question is, if I log in monthly to check on activity, what if I don't have the project number? You would need the project number, and then the online reports will give you the project number that you would need to be able to do your verification. I'm not sure if I'm answering that question accurately, but I believe that's
it should also be a contract as well.
Right.
Project ID.
So Suppose the prime started the project a year ago and I'm just starting my part. How do I know the estimate number? Well, as the sub, you wouldn't need to know the estimate number. That would appear on your online report as something you need to go in and verify. As the sub, you're not putting in your own, you don't enter payments. As a sub, you only verify the payments that the prime reports is paying to you. So if your prime is not doing its part and reporting in the system the payments it makes, then you wouldn't be able to go in and verify receiving or not receiving them. And that's something that we also are trying to make sure that we're getting 100% compliance with primes to report their payments to their subs, so the subs can go in and verify. We're not there yet, but we're getting better. How do I report a payment that spans 2 estimates? I guess if a payment spans 2 estimates, then you just report part of it under one and the other under the other. Now, for old payments going back years, is there a way to verify simply? It will take some time to go back to determine exact date payment received. We do need the actual date the payment was received. So, and we're going back to 2017. So once we get all that taken care of and cleared up, then those will be done, and hopefully there won't be such a backlog anymore of payments to verify. As a sub, is there a report to tell us if we have an unverified payment? Yes, there is. We'll talk about that in the next part of the webinar. Once a payment is verified as received, does it drop off the list of estimates? Once it's verified as received, I mean, it stays in the system, but it won't show up as needing to be verified anymore on the online report. All right. How long does ODOT have to get the estimate into CRL after we have received the estimate? That I don't know. I'll have to follow up on that one. I know that's an automated process, but I'm not exactly sure how long that takes. Question is, what if I am paying multiple subs with our payment received from ODOT? That's perfectly, that's common, and you would enter each sub payment under that payment estimate. So it's not just, you can enter as 1 to many payments or 0 to many, naturally, per estimate. But in this demo, we only showed 1. Question, I do not think ODOT withholds retainage. Well, ODOT does not withhold retainage. This is actually what we're talking about here is if the prime is withholding retainage. And the prime is able to do that, but they cannot withhold retainage when for a bonded sub. And they can't withhold retainage on a sub that, I mean, if the sub is bonded, they can't just choose to ignore that and withhold anyway. So if that's happening, that's something that we'd want to hear about. But no, ODOT itself does not withhold retainage on the primes. So any payments received before 2017 do not need to be verified. We're only looking at right now we're only looking at payments going back to projects that were sold in 2017. So those projects would have a 17 as the first two digits of the project ID, like 170001 and beyond. And then there was a request to see how the sub can run the report for payments. So we're going to get to that. That's all the questions right now.
Okay, well, I can go ahead and show that how to run the report for on the subcontractor side. So back when I was here at the subcontractor payments, I click on that tab, and when I have my actual payment record here, if I open up the row actions menu, you can go ahead and, which is downloading, under the reports, go ahead and select subcontractor payment. And then very similar to what I did previously as the prime contractor, you can go ahead and launch the report in the browser, or you can go ahead and save it to your desktop. So we'll go ahead and generate this.
I actually think that you might have been talking about the online report of payments need to be verified. But
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can discuss that as well. But this is a way that the subcontractor can view the subcontractor payment report. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue our demo here. We want to go ahead and show the process of the subcontractor recording a payment to our tiered subcontractor. So you as a subcontractor have a subcontractor that's working for you. You want to go ahead and report that payment out to your tiered subcontractor. You go ahead and click on that subcontractor payment tab. So we, the subcontractor, have already signed our payment. And if you open up the row actions menu for that particular payment, we want to go ahead and select add new payment from payee. And then go ahead and enter our payee. So we're going to go ahead and use our tiered subcontractor. And in this example, we're going to use Precision Company. So they are an actual tiered subcontractor that is working for Independence Excavating on this job. We'll go ahead and enter our payee payment number. And then the paid date is defaulted to today. So if today is the date that you paid, you can go ahead and leave that date. But, as David mentioned, you have 7 days to record that payment out. You will go ahead and select our payment time. So we'll say that this is our final payment. And then we'll enter an amount here. So we'll go ahead and enter amount here, 5,000, excuse me, $2,000. 5,000 was from the prime to the sub. So, and we'll go ahead and say that the payee work complete indicator, we'll go ahead and check that since the work is complete. And then we'll go ahead and save our record. Since this is the final payment, we likely don't have any withholding, so we don't need to record the withholding. It is optional, so you can go ahead and go directly to the actual sign-in process. So if you click on the contract payment link, and then click on the subcontractor payments. And you'll see here the actual record from the payer, Independence Excavating Incorporated, to our tiered subcontractor, Precision Company. So we're ready to sign it, very similar to what the Prime signed its payment record. You want to go ahead and select the sign subcontractor payment. And again, you'll get the subcontractor payment report in the review process here. So where you can review your data, and then go ahead and click the right blue arrow. And then you'll get your verification text. And then scroll to the bottom here and click the right blue arrow. And then you're ready to sign that payment. And again, signer comments are optional. So if you want to enter those, that's up to you. You don't need to, but you can if you like. Then you can go ahead and sign the payment. So we've completed our process of, as a subcontractor, of verifying our payment from the prime contractor, and then also reporting our payment out to our tiered subcontractor. And we've signed that payment out to our tiered subcontractor. So now the final step here is to we're going to go ahead and log off our system and log back in. We're going to log in now as the tiered subcontractor. So in this example, it's going to be Precision Company. So we want to go ahead and enter our username. First, you want to enter an ODOT online, and followed by the username. And now we're logging in as Precision Company, the tiered subcontractor. And then again, you're going to get to the home page. Under Contract Overview, enter in the same contract ID, CUI 96833. And then
it's worth noting on wait that if somebody's only got one contract, they can just say see all.
they can.
And it'll show that'll just bring up the only one, or they say see all, it'll show as many as they're actually on. So that might help a little bit, speed things up, rather than, because you don't have to type it in every time.
That's true. But if you're working with the report and you want to match the report, then you want to go ahead and enter in that contract ID. Okay, so once you've got your contract, you want to go ahead and click on the contract ID in the results. And for the tiered subcontractor, we just have the two estimates. Again, the subcontractor here is not going to see the estimate until the payer has signed that payment. So once the payer has signed, then it will be available for the subcontractor to go ahead and verify. So it does need to be signed first. So we'll go ahead and click on estimate 2. That was the estimate you used. And then we'll click on the subcontractor payments tab. And then you can see our record here from Independence Excavating to Precision Company. If you open up the row actions menu for this payment record, we should have the option here to verify payment once it's done loading. And there's the option there, verify payment. And very similar to what the subcontractor did when they verified their payment from the prime, the tiered subcontractor is going through the same process of verifying payment. And then the question came up earlier, well, what if I received a payment, but what is not as expected? Well, then you would go ahead and say, yes, not as expected here. So if you're expecting $3,000 and you only received $2,000, then you would go ahead and enter in that $2,000. So depending on what the invoice is for and based upon how much you receive, you would select the appropriate option here.
Well, they would put what the amount received and then put a comment, ideally, to say, I was expecting something else. I was expecting 3,000.
So you can do that. So like if you were
Yeah.
expecting 2,000, you would say received only 2,000 of the 3,000.
And this is for first tier subs as well, not just second tier.
It is. It's
And yeah, and for date received, it could be the same thing. You could say, well, I received maybe you received the amount you expected, but it was a month late.
That's right. So pick that the date here that the actual payment was received. For this demonstration, I'm selecting today, but you can select a future date or the actual date that you receive that payment there. Okay, so we'll go and select today. And then we did indicate that the payee's work was complete, so we'll go and check that. And then scroll down to the bottom and click the right blue arrow. And then go ahead and once you're ready, click the submit verification button. And then if you click on the endorsements, you'll see the actual signature and then the amount received here, and then the payee on what they have received here. We received only 2,000 of the 3,000 there. So this is very similar to what we showed when the subcontractor verified their payment. So that completes the whole process of the prime entering the payment, signing the payment, the subcontractor verifying the payment from the prime, and then entering the payment to their subcontractor, their tiered subcontractor, and then signing the tiered subcontractor payment, and then the tier verifying their payment as well. Okay. So also would like to demonstrate the process of if you want to enter a correction. So as I mentioned, if before you sign it, go ahead, if you've seen something that's incorrect, go ahead and delete that payment and then go ahead and re-enter that payment. But if you sign that payment and you notice later, well, I need to make a correction, I need to notify ODOT, you can do that. If you navigate to the Civil Rights and Labor Resource website, and then you scroll down to where it says additional resources, there's two links available there. The subcontractor payment reporting for payers correction request, and then also for payees correction request. So we'll go ahead and demo this part here. We'll go ahead and select the payers correction request. So if you click the link there, it launches you to this system we use called OneSpan Sign. And then you want to enter in your username, your first name and your last name, and then your email address. And then press submit. And then you should receive an email. So I'll go over to my email client here, and you'll receive an email that comes from eSign Live, and it'll have the subject here, the Ohio Department of Transportation. David Walker has added you as a signer to the package subcontractor payment payers correction request. So within the body of that email, if you click on the link to go to documents, you're going to go ahead and enter in your correction information. So once you launch that page, the first thing you'll see here is e-sign disclosure and consent. So you want to go ahead and check scroll down to the bottom here and go ahead and accept that consent. And this is where you want to enter in your correction information. So the very top section here is the actual payment. So you want to enter in the contract, the prime contractor, who the payee was, the payer, the estimate number, the payment number, the date paid, and the paid amount. So this is like, in case you've made a mistake on that payment record and you need to submit that correction, you'll have to go back to CRL, get this information out as far as the contract information, the payee, the estimate number, the payment number, the date paid, and the payment amount. So once you've populated that information, you want to go ahead and indicate what you want to replace it with. So again, you'll want to enter in the contract ID here, the prime contractor, the payee, the payer, the estimate number on, for example, let's say you made a payment on estimate 2, but it was supposed to be estimate 3. In this section here is where you want to enter estimate 3 here, and then enter in your payment number on what you want it to be.
You only have to enter what has to be changed. So if everything is the same except the estimate number, just enter the estimate number.
Okay. So yeah, as David mentioned, just enter the information that's needed. And then once you've entered in your corrections, you're ready to go ahead and sign the document. And prior to doing that, you want to go ahead and upload any go ahead and attach any supporting affidavit documents.
Yeah, this form is set up for like Chrome, and I think you're looking at this in Internet Explorer, so it's not quite the same. But
let me see if I can navigate to Chrome then. Okay, I don't think that worked.
No. Well, it's okay. The important thing is that if you're in Chrome, there's the instruction to show you how to upload the attachment, which is the documentation to support the change. Since you already did sign that it was true and correct, it's important that we have a reason. We can't just change things without a reason. So that's the reason that we're asking for documentation. And that's going to be, needs to be attached. There we go. Now that's what most people will be seeing. A little bit different, a little more modern looking. Same form, but the uploads are on the left. Right, click on that.
So if you click on this upload, you'll see here where it says optional, but it is a required document. So you want to go ahead and attach that supporting affidavit document. So if you click on see more, you can see here the actual text is displayed here. So I believe I should be able to upload this. So I click on that link. If I have a payment document, like for example, I have here a payment test PDF, I can just go ahead and drag it over here into as the option to drag.
If you click on the name of it, it'll give you a little preview.
Yeah, so click on here and it's created a text file here in Word and saved it as a PDF, but you would have your actual supporting document that you'd want to upload here.
And you can upload multiple documents if needed, or you can delete them before you submit if you upload the wrong one.
Yeah. Here's the delete option.
But then to get back to the form, and this is a tricky thing, you have to click on that little documents icon.
That's way over here to the top left.
Yeah.
And then I want to click on that. And then go ahead and click on where it says subcontractor payment reporting required.
So everything has to be, every required field will have to be completed before it'll let you finish.
So then once you've done that and you've uploaded your supporting document, you'll go ahead and sign the payment. Now, if you're not in a authorized representative of your company, you want to go ahead and enter in the actual officer name and title and email of who you've been granted permission, from what officer you've been granted permission to go ahead and submit this document.
So there's this document for the payer, and then there's another very similar one for the payee.
That's right. So if I go back to my Civil Rights and Labor Resource website, the other link is over here, the subcontractor payment reporting payees correction request link. So very similar, you would just click on that link and then enter in the correction as a payee, whether it's a subcontractor or whether it's the tiered subcontractor.
So, and that would be like if you verified that, or say that, you know, sometimes you get into a routine and you're just kind of going at an autopilot. You said you received something and then you were like, wait a minute, we didn't actually receive this amount. You basically you need to correct the verification. So that's where you would use this payee's correction request. But again, since you signed it, we still need to see the documentation. So we take your word for it, basically, when you're doing the initial entry, that everything you're putting in is true and correct. And we don't require proof, but we do for corrections.
Right.
And somebody asked, is there a similar correction request for wage reports? That's a little bit different. That's a whole different subject. I'd wait.
Yeah, which reports would those be?
Wait, so yeah, for payrolls, actually, I guess.
Payrolls. Not right now. So you'd have to go ahead and make your corrections to your payroll and then go ahead and re-import the payroll. And then you'll get a new modification of that payroll. And then you would just sign that latest modification of that payroll. Because only latest modification of the payroll for that payroll number can be acted on.
Yeah, that's really the issue is that's for payrolls, there's latest modification, that whole concept. The latest modification is the one that's active. There is no such concept right now with the payment reporting. It gets reported once. And if it's not correct, then we have to go through these, that's why we have these forms. Because our IT department has to go to the database and make the changes. Hopefully someday that won't be the case. It'll be better, but right now, this is the best we can do. These forms are pretty new, so if there's any issues, if you have any issues with them, please let us know. So a few more questions. I know time is running very short, but can more than one payment be issued to the same subcontractor for each estimate? Yes. That's totally, and that happens quite a bit sometimes. You know, when depending on the, you know, if your subcontractor submits multiple invoices that may need to be paid from the same payment estimate, and that system can handle that. We had a sign-on, but not sure what it is. How do we get that? Contact CRL support. And then any reason the prime might not sign a payment right away? Is there a timeline for that, or should it be immediate? Well, yes, if they have 7 days to enter and sign, just so they're not going in necessarily every day and interacting with CRL, but that's the only reason. Well, just depending on their level of staffing that they've dedicated to doing this reporting, but the prime might enter and sign within 7 days, otherwise they'll be late. Now, if the prime the prime might actually have one person enter the payments and another person sign them. That's relatively rare, but it's not unheard of. So that's a possible reason the prime might not sign a payment right away. But we sent out emails. I sent out emails last week to the primes requesting that they go in and sign their unsigned payments. So hopefully this cut down quite a bit on the number of unsigned payments. And then, is there a missing subcontract payment website? There is. So let's get back to the last few slides.
Okay, so I'm going to relaunch my slide deck here. And as mentioned, there are screenshots there, very similar to what I went through. And then we'll go ahead and discuss reports. So we've talked about this some here in the presentation today. So there are 2 reports that are available. So the contractor with missing subpayments and or signatures. So if you're a prime contractor, you can go ahead and launch this report using the link that's attached in this slide. And then you want to go ahead and enter your vendor ID and then press view report. And then you'll go ahead and see the actual contracts and the actual estimate numbers and the actual subcontracts there. And then if there is a record that is in red, that means there is a estimate there and you have not recorded any payments on that estimate. And then if you have a record where you've entered a estimate or you've entered a record on an estimate, but you haven't signed it, then that will be highlighted in yellow. So this is what the prime would be using in order to see the payments that they need to record out to their subcontractors. And then very similar, there is a subcontractor with missing signatures report. You can launch the report from the URL that's in this slide deck, and then you can go ahead and enter your vendor ID, and you'll see the actual subcontractor payment records that have been reported out to you and signed by the prime contractor, and that just needs to be verified by you as a subcontractor. So this is very helpful. These reports can tell you what actions you need to take on. So periodically visit these reports, enter in your vendor ID, and go ahead and use those actual contracts and estimate numbers and go ahead and take action on whether you're a prime contractor or subcontractor. Okay, so those reports are available. And if you have questions on those, you can email CRL support. Payment affidavits. A payment affidavit seeks to verify the actual payments made to DBE firms on the project. So each DBE firm must verify the actual payment. The process here is that the prime submits to DBE subcontractor the interim and final affidavit, and then the DBE signs the interim and final affidavit and returns that to the prime. And then the prime submits all the DBE interim and final affidavits to the ODOT goal attainment coordinator. And then the affidavits submission still remains a requirement, even though we're entering our data in CRL. So at this time, it's still part of the requirements.
When everybody gets good with entering their data in CRL, then payment affidavit requirement will be done away with. But right now we aren't getting all the data that we need from everybody in CRL, so we still need this payment affidavits.
Okay. And then the difference between payment affidavits and CRL is that payment affidavits are only submitted for DVEs, whereas in CRL you're submitting payments for all DBEs and non-DBEs. And then payment affidavits don't allow for ODOT to monitor the prompt payment, where CRL does. And like as I mentioned, CRL captures all payments, DBE and non-DBE. Contact information. So there's already been some questions about this. If you need to get access to CRL, whether it's for payment processing or for payroll processing, go ahead and email CRL support. The email address is dot.crl.support@dot.ohio.gov, and go ahead and indicate that if you're a new user, go ahead and let us know that you're a new user and what role you'll be needing, whether you'll be doing payroll processing or payment processing or both. And then you can also visit the CRL resource website, noted here in this slide deck. And then if you have any questions on compliance, you can also contact your compliance officer for the contract that you're working on. And then you can get a list of the compliance officers that are listed in the URL here. Okay, we do have reference material on the Civil Rights and Labor resource website. If you go down to, which is Ohio DOT reference material, there is a link to an interactive guide for subcontractor payments. Please make sure you're using Internet Explorer and Adobe Acrobat Reader and Flash installed. It doesn't work on Chrome, unfortunately, but you will need to use an Internet Explorer.
That was another question that was asked was, or more of a request was, it would be helpful if we made a cheat sheet for each type of payer, prime and sub, for entering the payments. And we are going to do that. We'll call them quick reference guides. That's on our radar to do soon. And then this actual requirement of, this guide here that requires Internet Explorer and Adobe Flash would be gone away, because actually Flash Player is going away pretty soon anyway.
Yeah. So yeah, that's pending, as David mentioned. Frequently asked questions about payments, go ahead and you can click on the link that's in the slide deck as well. And then there is a FAQ that you can visit. Some of the questions may have already been answered in the presentation today, but some of them may have not, so you can visit the FAQ. And we have a complaint hotline. So for DBE, reporting DBE fraud or contracting fraud or prompt payment violations or discrimination, go ahead and note the phone number and the email address. So we've had a lot of questions, but if there's any additional questions, if we have time, we can answer those now, or we can answer those offline.
And the only questions that are in the chat box that we haven't talked about was, one was, did you state that all projects from 2017 and forward will have to verify payments? Well, it's actually all, yeah, right. From 2017 forward, it's all projects that had a DBE goal, to be specific. And then in fall 2019 is when we started including all projects. So DBE and Edge tend to, well, their payments being reported in the system and then verified by the subs. And there was another request just to see how to get to those the reports in the CRL site.
The ones that were in the slide deck?
I'm not sure if, I think they mean on the actual CRL website. Are those reports linked on the CRL website? You might have to put those on there. They're not, but I think they are.
Oh, these two reports.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We usually email out the links to them for
Yeah.
people, but we can put them on the CRL site. And that's it, I think.
Okay. Okay, if there are no further questions, just want to thank you all for joining us this afternoon. And as I mentioned, if you have further questions, please do email CRL support.
Okay, thanks everyone.